There's a group of plants you can plant once and harvest for many years to come. Lots of people don't even realise that many of these are actually edible, and not only that, they taste delicious and they're a doddle to grow because they practically grow themselves year after year. I'm talking about edible perennials. Want to know more? Well, follow me. Everyone loves trying something a little bit different, and how about this for shaking up the menu? Ferns. But this isn't just any old fern, it's ostrich fern, so called because the leaves are supposed to look a bit like ostrich feathers. I'm not so sure, but something we can be sure of is the gastronomic delights that await us. These are harvested in early spring when the leaves are still closely furled up. They're called fiddleheads and they make great eating. They have a taste somewhere between asparagus and green beans. Yum! Ostrich ferns, like all ferns, love a cool, moist and shaded position. So I reckon down here at the bottom of the garden, shaded by these taller shrubs here and where the ground stays moister for longer, should do them really well. I'm going to give them a quick water first, just to wet the pots through. And then I'm going to improve the soil here with a little bit of just garden compost, just to get them off to a really great start. And let's just fork that in quickly. Now I've got 3 plants here. You can plant 1, 2, as many as you want, but I like to plant in odd numbers. I just think it's more pleasing on the eye that way. In they go. Look at those lovely verdant green leaves against the dark compost. Beautiful already. A lot of people wouldn't assume some of the plants I'm going to mention are edible, and it's a bit of a surprise to some. I love it really, and I would love to know if you've heard of all of these or if any of these are new to you today. Do let me know down in the comments. There we go. Give them a water in, and then I will mulch them later on with some leaves just to kind of mimic the woodland floor. If you saw my previous video on perennial vegetables, and I'll link to that below, you'll recognise this as one of my perennial kales, a Benton's kale. This was taken from cuttings late last autumn, and now look at it, it's establishing beautifully. Perennial brassicas are so hardy and so reliable that I decided to plant another one, and I've gone for a perennial broccoli called 9-star broccoli. Now this produces its heads or spears in spring. You get a main head and then lots of smaller ones around it. And as you cut away the main spear, the other smaller spears keep coming over several weeks, and they look a little bit like cauliflower. I couldn't find any cuttings, so I've gone ahead and ordered a plant which arrived through the mail. But as a bonus, it came with this, a purple tree collard, which is another type of kale. So I'm going to plant both of these. Let's do it. I'm planting them here in an area that gets lots of nice light, and the soil here has been already prepared, so it's quite rich. Let's pop it in there. You may notice to my left or your right, these things here, these are perennial leeks that were planted last autumn. I'm really pleased with how they're getting along and establishing. This will be a really lovely kind of perennial area here, and we've got the comfrey behind me. Now with the 9-star broccoli, you can actually grow these from seed as well. You'll find them for sale as seed packets, and they're sown in exactly the same way as annual broccoli, in the spring, grown on and then planted out in early summer, and they should give a crop that same summer. Perennial broccoli is a fairly short-lived perennial. It lasts for 3 to 5 years, but you can extend the life by cutting it right back after you've finished harvesting it, so it's never allowed to flower. And then you can always take cuttings from existing plants to create new ones. And now for something spicy. No, not these chili peppers, although these are perennial in warmer climates, but come and have a look in here. I've got some sections of horseradish, and we're going to plant these to establish a new clump of this super reliable perennial. Quirky little fact for you, these are actually called thongs. Yes, really. Most people know you can use horseradish roots to make a horseradish sauce, but did you know you can also eat the tender young leaves, which are much milder in flavour, and you can steam those or put them in a salad. So I'm going to plant them into a general purpose, all-purpose potting mix, and it's important to get them the right way up. And you can tell that by the shoots. That's an obvious one. All the buds here, they're facing upwards, but I'm going to put these ones we can tell at a 45-degree angle like that. Make sure all the energy is going into one bud so you get good decent sized leaves. So there's one. Now some bits of roots aren't so obvious. You can't see the buds and they're just sort of flat all along. So for these ones I'm just going to plant them horizontally in the pot like that, and then we'll get sort of shoots all along. Starting off horseradishes like this is a really surefire way of doing it. These are really reliable perennials, so I've no doubt that they'll get established beautifully. You could plant them directly into prepared soil, but I'm just starting them off in pots just so I can keep a close eye on them, and then they'll go out in spring into a part shaded or sunny position that's relatively well sheltered. Now do be aware that horseradish is a little bit gung-ho and can get carried away, so you may need to pull bits out or keep it in a pot if you want to contain it to stop it spreading, which it might well do. If you are going to grow it in a container though, make sure it's a big one so you get nice chunky roots rather than lots of smaller ones. Wild garlic, or ramsons, will always hold a special place in my heart because it was the first plant I foraged to make a wild pesto together with hazelnuts and a local virgin cold pressed oil. The leaves have a lovely garlicky taste, but they are quite strong, so use in moderation. Now every part of the wild garlic is edible, from the bulbs to the flowers, but it's the leaves we more usually pick. And here are the bulbs. Now these love a cool, shady place and they hate hot sun, so I'm going to plant them next to my ostrich ferns here. That seems like the logical place to put them. Oh, I can really smell that garlicky smell, it's gorgeous. So I'm going to plant these about 1 to 2 inches, that's say 3 to 5 centimetres deep, into prepared soil that's been cleared of weeds. I'm going to set them about 4 inches or 10 centimetres apart. That way they won't grow into each other too quickly. These will spread over time and naturalise, which is great, and I think they should be really happy here. I'm just going to finish off here with a good drenching to settle them in. Now ideally we plant these bulbs in spring, but late summer or autumn is fine too. But because of the late start, I'm going to hang off harvesting them next year just so they can get a bit of muscle behind them first. These guys grow on the woodland floor and we want to mimic those conditions. There's lots of leaves here that are about to fall. I'll let them accumulate to form a natural mulch just like they would in the woodland, and that'll rot down and improve the soil. If it's dry next summer, like it has been this summer, I will water this a few more times to keep them going. Now to harvest them, you want to take the leaves before they start flowering, and don't be too greedy. Allow some of the younger leaves to continue on so they've got all the resources to recharge those bulbs for next year's harvest. I wanted an effortless spinach style perennial vegetable as well, and I reckon my next choice has it in droves: Good King Henry. Good King Henry is also known as Lincolnshire spinach or wild spinach, presumably because it's such a good spinach alternative. But I reckon it's even better because these lovely soft leaves are born over a longer period of time, and because it's got a nice deep taproot, they come earlier in the spring as well. And to cap it all, it's got these seed heads here which can be harvested and used a lot like quinoa, or perhaps sprinkled onto bread like poppy seeds. 2 crops for the effort of 1, and it'll come year after year. Brilliant! Good King Henry needs the royal treatment because it can sometimes be a little bit tricky to germinate. So I've added in some sharp sand here just to improve the drainage of this mix, which is just an all-purpose mix to help it sit through the winter so it's not sitting in moisture all the time. And I'm going to sow about 3 or 4 seeds per plug. Now, Good King Henry doesn't like being transplanted, it gets disturbed very easily. So by putting them in here, I can just carefully ease it out and pop the whole thing into the ground. Then once they're sown, just cover them over with about a ½ inch or 1 centimetre more of the mix. Now once I've given it a good water, it's going to go into a cold frame outside. Good King Henry seeds do need a period of chilling to stimulate them into growth. I don't expect to see any seeds pop up until next spring, and then I'll grow them on and then carefully remove them from the plug trays and pop them into a partly shaded or sunny position. You can harvest the leaves anytime from mid-spring to autumn, and those seed heads from about late summer. Now, if you mulch the plants when they die back later in the autumn, it'll really help protect the roots. And if you do that, you'll be able to grow them in a positively chilly zone 3. So this is a really hardy crop. Sorrel is another superb leafy green. It's got quite deep roots which draw up minerals from the soil into the leaves, making it a source of all the good stuff. Vitamins, iron, antioxidants, the lot. There are a range of sorrels you can grow, buckler-leaved, red-veined or French sorrel, and they all have a lemony tang which makes them excellent in everything from salads to soups. For our next perennial vegetable, we've come out into the fields to look at this crop behind me here, which is chicory. Now the field is full of the stuff because not only does it offer us delicious pickings, it also makes an excellent drought-resistant forage for cattle too. There are a number of different types of chicory. Perhaps the most commonly grown is radicchio, which has lovely red flushed, pink flushed leaves that make great eating. Another secret of chicory though is that you can dig up the roots and roast it to make your own coffee substitute. Simply scrub the roots clean, cut them into thin rounds, then dehydrate them. Once they're dry, roast them at 350 Fahrenheit or about 175 Celsius until the roots have taken on a golden brown colour. You should be able to smell a coffee-like aroma at this point too. Remove them from the oven, let the roots cool off, then grind them into a powder. Your caffeine-free chicory powder's now good to go. Let's sow some chicory now. It's early autumn here, it's a little bit late, so I'd probably wait till spring to be honest, but I'm going to give it a try anyway because it's a mild autumn and it'd be nice to have some plants to overwinter. So I'm just scattering them across as usual, and then we're just going to finish off with a 1/2 inch or 1 centimetre layer of more of the potting mix like that, and I'll give that a water shortly. Now I'll plant this out in the spring to somewhere that's sunny and relatively sheltered, and then you can start picking the leaves once they come up until the plants begin to flower, or cut off the flower stalks to extend the season. And then those tap roots, well, they can be lifted from autumn and then through to winter. That's our lot for now, but if you want even more ideas for perennial vegetables, then do check out this video here. It includes one of my all-time favourites, but you'll have to watch it to find out what it is. Do drop this video a like on your way out and get some perennial garden goodness in your life by subscribing too. I'll catch you next time.